What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. I'm not. What?
No, you're on the wrong mic.
I'm not. Oh, 1 second. I'll do a proper intro for you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Let me get the sound sorted. I'm not. I'm not on the brunt.
No.
Thank you.
A great start.
What a great start. Yeah, fantastic. I mean,
the best
if
possible
you want to
start.
fucking fill a bit of
Insight.
sound out,
Do it. That'd be
Yeah.
absolutely amazing, lads. Jesus
Shreyas,
Christ.
tell me, have we
Yeah.
come down from the ginger ale party of Indian World Cup?
It'll go on for the next couple of months. It will take some
Months?
time to die down.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, the team just returned today, so they've got a parade going on right now as we speak. So
Very nice.
this celebration will go on for some time.
Well, do you know what else is going to go on for some time? Transfers, lads, because we have got a lot of stuff coming out in the past couple of days, which I'm sure some of you have already seen. We're going to be discussing Erik ten Hag's contract extension, which got announced earlier on in the day. Erik ten Hag and Ashworth's partnership going forward, how that is going to work. Sorry, Christopher Vivell, is that how we say his name? Is he Italian?
It's French, I think.
Is it? That sounds very Italian. Vivale, you know what I mean? It sounds very Italian. But we'll go with that. He starts today. We're going to discuss Mason Mount's future, and we're also going to discuss Mason Greenwood to Marseille, which is a deal that is heating up according to Marcio. So, first and foremost, don't need to ask how you are, Shreyas, because you're still on ginger ale, which means you're in a good mood. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Productive work day, and United are ticking along nicely, which is positive.
The feeling at the minute, just before we get into the ten Hag stuff, are we happy with the Euros at the minute ongoing, or do we kind of want to see United get back in action? Where's the kind of scale on that?
As long as I don't have to watch England, I like the Euros. All the other games are good, are interesting to watch. If England weren't in it, I'd be happy for it to continue. But because England are in it, it just makes it painful anytime I have to watch them. I'm just not a fan of it.
Yeah, because it's not like you can't really get amped up for pre-season, can you, Shreyas?
No.
But then you think about the start of the season, like the Community Shield, which I know it's still quite a while away at the minute, but then you've got the start of the Premier League season, and then we could have new transfers in by then, which is exciting. So it's just a bit of a weird period at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But personally, I think it is the first time I am actually quite excited for pre-season.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter as to how we if we win or if we lose. You never know how United will be starting the new season, how it's going to go, and however it will happen. So I would say that is the breeze spell where I can actually enjoy seeing United. Doesn't matter the result.
Yeah.
After which you cannot control what happens.
No, as we saw from last season, by the way, which was just no one could have predicted that. So God knows what we're in store for this season. One can only hope the positive way, not the negative kind of version. So of course we all know that ten Hag was staying anyway. That got announced about. That got announced at 10:30 when I was in the bath. I think me and Sam went live at that time. So we already knew that was going to happen, but then we was waiting to find out the details of what was the crack with his contract situation, basically. So United have triggered the existing +1 option in Erik ten Hag's contract rather than negotiating altogether fresh terms. Ten Hag keeps his title and his transfer veto. And just a quote from Ten Hag saying, "I'm very pleased to have reached an agreement with the club to continue working together. Looking back at the past 2 years, we can reflect with pride on 2 trophies and many examples of progression from when I joined." Now, that is debatable in itself, and we'll get into that. But Sam, does it surprise you it's not a bigger deal?
I think maybe they couldn't find sort of terms to come to an agreement in terms of like a fresh deal, because obviously that veto transfer thing was a big part of his initial contract, and obviously he's not going to want to give that up readily, I don't think, and that seems to be the sticking point, because he seems to have kept it and he seems to have just reactivated the +1 that he had in his contract anyway. So I think it's an interesting thing. It's at the same time, it's we back you. You've got an extra year. You've got 2 years to improve under this new ownership, under this new structure, which you didn't have before. You didn't have that kind of support, and we want to see what you can do, because you've shown glimpses of progression and glimpses of success under the old regime. So let's see what you can do under this new regime. But it's only 2 years. It's not a 3, 4, 5 year deal where if you do come unstuck and you have to pay out a shit ton of money to get him out, but it's still a show of faith at the same time. So I think they covered their backs, and it's a show of faith in him at the same time. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, they're just activating the 1 year that he had anyway. It was like, well, they didn't have to do that. Like, they didn't have to do that. They've chosen to do that, which I think is a show of faith in a way. Obviously, we'd love it to be like a 3-year deal, but I think they're going, right, new structure, fresh start, fresh slate. You got 2 years under this regime to see what it could do, because they've said it's going to take 2, 3, maybe 4 windows. So you get 2 windows under that. Well, you get the January window as well, but obviously it's a bit more difficult in January.
We know what will happen around that, the reports that will come out. Can't spend.
So he gets 2 windows, and I think that's good enough to see a sign of progression. And I think if you don't see any progression or you see regression, then you probably see him lose his job, unfortunately.
There's a quote from Ashworth on this, Shreyas, which I thought was interesting. He says, with 2 trophies in the past 2 seasons, Erik ten Hag has reinforced his record as one of the most consistently successful coaches in European football. We decided that Erik was the best partner for us to work with in driving up standards and outcomes. Consistently successful. What are your thoughts on that, Shreyas?
I mean, in fairness, he's won 2 trophies. In consecutive seasons, he's managed to go to the FA Cup finals, managed to win the Carabao Cup in his first season itself. And apart from that, I think when it comes to winning trophies and going deep into these domestic competitions, he's been doing a relatively decent job. And apart from it, in the first season in the league, as well as I would say till the time we were in the Europa League, we played a good brand of football. We were able to take the fight to much better teams and actually keep up consistent performances at the same time. Second season in, it became a lot more tougher. It became a lot more difficult to sometimes even see. United wasn't consistent at all. You never know how United would turn up into a game, no matter who the opponent is, whether it's a Crystal Palace, whether it's a Luton Town, or whether it's even a Liverpool. The performances never matched the way we actually turned up to a game. So I think he definitely is someone who deserves a second shot, but perhaps under new management, perhaps under a well-defined structure, Ten Hag might be able to work around the club and actually just focus on the footballing side of things when it comes to the team much more effectively, rather than having to see recruitment, having to see transfers, and all those sort of stuff. But yes, I think when it comes to winning trophies, and if you see the kind of people who were available in the market, I would say Ten Hag is a much safer bet, because there weren't any established, or I would say concrete names where you would go in and say that this is the guy who can come in and just make a whole revamp and actually be successful. There is I don't think there is any other manager who is presently available in the market who fits that description.
Have we seen progression though, Sam? Have you? That's the question. Because trophies, yeah, I openly agree. I was like, football is all about trophies. But from when he first taken over to where we are now, has there been progression consistently?
I think the first 2 games of his tenure, when he first came in, you saw awful. Like, they're awful. And then he changed his tact, and he went to a different system and a different style and was successful with it. Whether you call that progression or not, I don't know. I think we played well for a lot of the season. Obviously, we had a couple of bad moments, but I think for the most part, we played well this season. 2 finals, cup, all that sort of stuff. Some players that he brought in played extremely well in Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro. So I think there's some sort of progression there. Second season, I think style of play and on the pitch, I don't think there was as much progression. If anything, we kind of regressed quite a lot on the pitch. But then in other elements, I think there has been progression, like the sort of standard of the youth and youth players being introduced and getting minutes and developing. Other players being developed and stuff like Diego Dallo, Kobe Mainu, Willy Camboala, that kind of stuff. The progression of Garnacho, I think, is another significant thing. So I think there's progression in other areas. But if you're just talking about on the pitch, style of playing on the pitch, sort of looking at how we play and winning matches, then it's probably not progression. It's probably regression, if anything.
It is a sticky one. I think there's debates on either side, whichever way you look at it. I agree with both sides of it. Get your thoughts and your comments in the comments section, and we'll get to those very, very shortly. Again, I'll read. There's another bit of this which I thought was interesting. The quote says, "We must be clear." This is Ten Hag saying it. "We must be clear that there is still lots of hard work ahead to reach the levels expected at United, which means challenging for English and European titles." With the future now, Shreyas, do you believe we can crack on and do that? Like, because the previous regimes, we bring a new manager in. First year does really well. Second year completely fucking crashes. And then it's rinse and repeat in it. Like, do you genuinely believe under Ineos now and the people that they've brought in with the new structure and the new policies and sticking with Ten Hag that we can now be successful? Like, in your heart, do you believe that?
I think they've set the right tone, like from the start itself. Like they are the ones who are actually starting at United from scratch. So in that aspect, they've set the right tone. They've got established people in who actually know how things actually work around a big football club and how things should actually happen around a football club. They are still trying to get in a couple of more people who can fit into that structure. And apart from it, when it comes to transfers as well, for a change, we are hearing certain different names. We are hearing certain different players as well. I think this is the first time the players that we are linked with, you would go on and say that, they are not the obvious choices. Like every single year, even people could predict which players United would actually go for. It wasn't as much of a task for anyone to actually determine who we would end up going for. But at least this time, like Ugarte has come on from absolutely nowhere. Like this was a player who wasn't even being mentioned around a lot, or even once in previous seasons as well. Then Olise as well isn't really a type of signing United would usually do when it comes to attacking wingers. We usually tend to target much more players who more players who are either linked with the manager before or are absolute superstars. They come in and it doesn't work out. That's the type of signings that we have been doing over the years. But I think there has definitely been a change. We are looking after more system-oriented players who can fit into a particular structure under the manager. Apart from that as well, I think sticking with the manager was a good call at this at this point of time, because Ten Hag has almost gotten like 6 starting players of him itself in this squad right now. Like 6 players are Ten Hag players already. Maybe working under Ineos, we can see a full 11 of Erik Ten Hag players. Maybe that's something that can actually propel this team to a much better position or a much better brand of football. But I would still say, I think we've seen other management as well. They come in, they sack the managers, they get rid of certain players. They want a completely, brand new structure in. But that doesn't really mean success on the pitch. That doesn't really mean that, things are going to work in the favor of the football club. So I think, at least for now, sticking with Ten Hag was the right call. Getting in Omar Barada, getting in, I would say people who were wanted by so many clubs when it comes to Jason Wilcox, when it comes to Dan Ashworth, and when it comes to all these guys. A lot of people were in for these people. So I think it was the right call to go about it that way. And I think a much better call was not to actually go into transfers before all these people came in. Like before Dan Ashworth came in and Omar Barada and every single person actually came into the club. They haven't made even a single signing up until now. So I think even that was actually a decent call from Ineos. And I would still say it will take some time. It will still genuinely take some time. There are still a lot of things to be fixed at Manchester United. But with the way they are projecting things right now, it still seems a lot more positive than what the Glazers were doing at the time.
Is it as simple though, Sam, as you just bring the right players in? Let's say they next 2 windows, they go out and the 3 or 4 targets that they identify come into the squad, work really well, become first teamers. Is it as simple as that, do you think? Or is there more to it than we need to do going forward? Like, what are your concerns, I suppose, is the question going into the next kind of year or 2?
I think signings are key. I think players coming in, the correct players, not just in terms of quality and ability, but in terms of attitude. I think we've suffered with that for a long time, with players coming in with a wrong attitude, like Paul Pogba, Jadon Sancho, those kind of players where they're like, do they have the ability? Absolutely. Do they have the application and the attitude to perform consistently? I'd say no. And they haven't, and it's been proven at Manchester United. So I think that is another consideration which we haven't done. We've just sort of gone, who's the best player out there and would make an impact and would sell shirts? Go get him. That's kind of how we've done our business. That's kind of what we've done. Varane, Casemiro, Falcao, Edison Cavani, Ronaldo returning, Sancho, Pogba. Like that just seems to be what we do.
The list is endless.
Yeah. We never seem to go, what is the correct player for this style of play, for the system we're trying to play, who has the correct attitude, has development beyond like the next couple of years and fits into our future plans also. We've never done that. We've kind of just gone what the manager wants and superstar signings. That's kind of how we've operated for like the last 10, 20 years. So I think that needs to change. So if we can get recruitment right, that's a very, very good start. Obviously, then the training facilities, the stadium, all that sort of stuff got to come with it because the stadium is a piece of shit. I'm sorry to say it. I love going. I love experiencing it, but it's a piece of shit. But they seem to be doing that as well. The tunnel's getting upgraded. They're ripping the executive seats out the Stretford end. Like, they're doing stuff, which is good. So I think there's room to do more things, but I think getting recruitment right on the pitch is the number one priority. And I think me and Chivy have said it multiple times. Once you get what's going on the pitch correct and going well and we're winning stuff, everything else kind of follows along with that. So it's not to say that other stuff isn't important, but I think number one is getting stuff right on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. I want to see what everyone else is saying. Kira's saying, weren't many good options to choose from. Better to stick with Ten Hag and give him a chance under the new management. Plus, he's already got a good chunk of these players in. Richard saying, does anyone believe we could see Anthony surprise us this season? I'll throw that question to you.
Absolutely.
He'll become even more crap.
Even more crap, Shreyas says. Yeah. Okay, I don't know how that's possible, but as a bold
Don't underestimate
prediction.
Anthony.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point. I'd play him Anthony from the left as a rotation substitution option, so we can only put crosses into players who can actually hit the bloody target. I think the dynamic of if we do get Xerxes in, I think the dynamic is going to significantly change with that, with the way we set up. And I think it could be very effective, but we'll see how that kind of gets on. I can see progression with the youth. Is that down to Erik Ten Hag? Who knows? I think certainly with Kobe and Garnacho, 100%. Put faith in him. You know, you can't. It's not luck, is it? When you see the video of him with his arm around him after the Carabao Cup final and saying this is going to be you in the next year or so, and then literally in a year or so,
starts him in the final,
scores his first goal, scores a goal in the final against his Manchester rivals, starts for England now in the Euros. Like, it's no coincidence.
But also,
he's nurturing him perfectly.
You've seen Willie Camboala come in. I had an argument with somebody on Twitter saying he only played because of injuries. It's like, how do you think?
Had an argument with someone on Twitter.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? It's like
crazy.
And he's like, oh, he only came in because of injuries. It's like, how do you think most youth people get their chances?
Yeah,
Rashford got his opportunity because of injuries. Like, this is how it works. And Erik Ten Hag had the faith in this guy to go, no, like, you played extremely well against West Ham, played extremely well against Liverpool, and he's a teenager. He's 19. Like, so this guy is clearly good with youth players. He knows what he's looking for, and he knows when these players are ready. He's had Toby Collier on the bench for God knows how long. Shea Lacey's on the cusp, Harry Amas, all that sort of stuff. They've been around the team for so long, and I won't be surprised to see him in pre-season and next season because this guy knows what he's doing. So I think you have
and he
to
knows
give
how
him
to set the
credit.
bar as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he's saying, listen, if you want to get into this team, you see Kobe, you see Garnacho, that's what you got to aim for. They're the levels. If you ain't hitting that, then you ain't getting in the squad. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Erik saying this upcoming season is huge, not just for Erik Ten Hag, but a lot of the players, new structure and new mentality, so players need to play for their lives or get shipped out. That is the one difference I'm looking forward to, Erik, as well, the big one where if players are underperforming, it's in a bit. No more of this fucking extending the contract without even speaking to other people. It's aligned from top to bottom. That, you know, if the shit, fuck them off, basically. Now, the next story we're going to discuss, lads, is Christopher Vivell. I'm going to call it. I don't care if he's French. I'm going to pronounce it in Italian. Took up his role today at Manchester United, according to Dan Sheldon. He joins as Director of Global Talent and will report to Dan Ashworth. Also, his appointment is temporary to help during the summer transfer window. It is possible that he will commit to the club full time. Now, I've done a bit of digging on him, lads. I'm not going to do a full fucking wiki page, but worked at Salzburg, worked at Leipzig and Chelsea as a technical director. And then he was kind of focusing on integrating young talent into the first team and then optimizing the club's recruitment strategy. He's worked with players like Haaland, Dako, Nkunku, Olmo, Gvardiol. Data-driven approach, youth development focus, innovative strategies. That's what we're looking at right here. Got an experience, and this is the bit that I liked. and used to are like this. Got big experience in building strong, competitive squads that balance experienced players with emerging young stars. Is that what we want to hear, lads, when we talk about, that position in particular, Sam?
Yeah, we when we did the news and this first broke, me and Shreyas touched on it, and we went through that list of players that you sort of mentioned.
Well, I feel like an idiot.
No, it's all right. It's good to repeat it because some people might have missed it. So I think it's good to sort of
anyone who didn't know.
Yeah,
that's the list.
But like, you look at that list of players, like every single player on that list has ended up at a big club or has won significant things. Every single one of them. Like the talent identification is extremely good. Obviously, I think, did he work with Ragnick as well during these RB times? I'm sure he did.
Yeah,
I'm sure I read that. So we know what Ralph Ragnick is like as well with the talent. So I think, this is an experienced guy, knows how to identify young talent and also get deals across the line, young players, and get them into the clubs and getting them signed and getting them done quickly, which is what we spoke about yesterday, Nick, with the article that Laurie Whitwell wrote, where we've divvied on so many young talents. Sesko, Haaland, Casido, like the list was endless. The amount of players who were just like, do we know who's the contact? 1.12 million.
Yeah.
And we sort of just let these talents slip through our fingers, and then we end up playing 70, 80, 90, 100 million for him 4 or 5 years later because we're like, oh yeah, they are good, which is ridiculous. And we see City do it continuously. Like in that article that we mentioned, City just snatched up a bunch of players we were going for because we did it and didn't bother to close the deal. So having a guy like this in charge, I think, is super important, and he's able to do these deals super quick. They might not be ready for right now. They might not be ready for like immediate thing, but they'll be prospects for the future. And we can operate similar to how City or Chelsea do. It's like, we'll get talent in and say they don't quite make it to the standard, but then you can still sell them for profit later on. You can make money off these players the way City do, the way Chelsea do. And it keeps the club ticking over and turning over, and you have a healthy PSR, FFP, all that sort of stuff. So I think this kind of guy is super important. And I'm sure he won't be the last that type of person that we'll bring in as well.
When you look at it, Shreyas, it is quite literally like the Avengers that they've brought in it, like the top people in top positions. You look at Omar, Dan, Christopher Vivell, Wilcox, all the rest of them, like they have got a massive reputation. So that also brings massive expectations as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and once again, I think that's the only thing that people really need to look at, because once again, even though these guys are quite reputed and they know what their what their job is and how they have to actually operate at Manchester United, it will still take them some time to get everything and to get the foundation ready, to get everything actually flowing in motion. It will take some time, because as we've seen last season, there is a lot of work to be done at United right now to actually get them to the level where we can actually start expecting success. I think right now we are still in that position where we still need to lay down the basic structures, we still need to lay down the basic procedures and protocols. And I think once those things are done, and once those things are actually we can actually see them working as well, that's the only point we can actually say that now is the time to actually start gunning for trophies and success on the pitch. Until that point comes, I think the only thing we can be excited for is actually progression and seeing consistent progression in all the departments.
Well, if we cast our minds back to the last window, Sam, obviously Mason Mount was our biggest signing, 55 plus 5 million, was it? Something it ended up being. A lot of question marks at the time. Again, another one who kind of splits the fans. But there was a report on him before, and I read this report. I was like, how could you possibly know that? Mason Mount is expected to play a more prominent role after an injury hit first season. How the fuck could you know? He could just have the same injuries again for the next season. He's just...
I mean, I'm sure he was primed for a prominent role the season just gone, but he was injured.
Yeah.
But
it's not a story.
What?
I mean, if he's fit, he'll be used.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But what I wanted to ask is, where does he fit in, do you think, Sam? Because we know with Bruno Fernandes, unless he is kind of fitness or whatever falls off a cliff next season, we know he's going to play almost every game apart from 2 or 3 when he's got, quite literally a broken leg. Apart from that,
I mean,
I don't know where he
played with a broken hand, so I don't even think
exactly.
A broken leg.
Yeah. So he's not really going to play as a 10, is it? So it's either a structural change and you tweak it like that and get him in, or you shoehorn him in somewhere, which doesn't feel right.
I think him and Corby will be the rotation 8s. I think that's how you're going to see it. Because I think Kobbie Mainoo, as good as he is, and as much as he played far too much football last year as an 18-year-old kid. He should not be playing the amount of games he was playing last season.
Especially with the injury as well, right?
And I think had Mason Mount been available, he probably would have played a few more games over Kobbie Mainoo to give him rest, to give him time to. Because that's how young players develop. You need to like bring them in for a couple of games and then take them out, rest them, make sure they recover properly. Because if you play him to death, you saw what happened with Rashford, where he's fractured his back, and we kept pushing him because he was most important. Did it to Anthony Elanga, we ran him into the ground. Like we've done it to so many players. So I just think, had Mason Mount be available, you'd probably see the rotating eights between him and Kobbie Mainoo. And obviously, you saw Bruno was almost falling apart at the end, wasn't he? Towards the end of the season, he had his broken hand, stuff. So at that point, you probably think, okay, Mason Mount can fit in there as well. He can go in the 10, and we can bring Bruno out to let him recover. So I think that's how he's going to be used. And obviously, he'll play, say, certain games, you might want to go with Kobbie Mainoo for a bit more sort of advancing, whereas Mason Mount, you want to bring if you want a bit more sort of coolness on the ball and a bit more sort of structured and stuff like that. So I think he'll be the option. I don't see him starting week in, week out like Bruno does. I don't see him doing that, but I think he'll be the rotation 8. He can also play on the right-hand side. So, if, like you said, if you want to do a structural change where you don't want to play with a winger, you can put him out on the right as well. So he's quite versatile in that way as well, which sometimes is to the detriment of players. Like if you're very versatile and play multiple positions, you kind of get used that way rather than having a structured role in the team. But I think, it'll be used as a sort of more rotational option, because I hope Ten Hag has learned his lesson and rotates his players way more than he used to, because that was something he didn't do as much as he should have done, in my opinion.
Again, I'm going to throw a similar question to you, Shreyas, but I just want to see what people are saying in the chat, because there's quite a few. My Damn United, that statement you just read out, Nick, on mixing youth with experience is United in itself. Erik saying De Ligt, Ugarte, Xerxes progress in the right direction. I would agree with that. The Samuel Luckhurst book of journalism free in this week's Sun. Not a chance will I be getting that. I actually saw the clip before. Do you know when Ten Hag's in a press conference and Luckhurst says something about Kobbie, and he goes, see, you remember something good, huh? And everyone starts laughing in the press conference. It's like, because you're a negative twat, that's why. Mount just got to remember it's a squad game. Rotation and tactical options will finally be nice to have. What position does Mount really excel in? Worried about Mount and not sure what his best position is and how he fits into the team. Well, Shreyas, I'll throw that to you.
I think once again, Mount is someone who brings a lot more energy. He brings a lot more, I would say, coordinated. When you look at players who can, press but in a coordinated manner, they know how to be positionally well-rounded enough when it comes to, snatching the ball off the opponent. Mount is a very, very decent option in that aspect. And apart from that as well, he does free up an option for Bruno to actually rotate with, because I still, we all know that United next season is also going to be playing like 50 games, at least 50 games United are going to be playing next season. We are going to be needing players like Mount to actually, be rotating about. And doesn't matter whether it's just as an 8, as a 10, or, just to put him on the right-hand side to actually see out games as well. He can do a job in those positions. And I would say he does provide us with a very good option to actually come off the bench, because like we saw last season, Eriksen, when he came on, he just didn't fit the structure anymore. He just didn't fit into this team anymore. He didn't have the legs, and just didn't have, the required work rate to actually function in this sort of a midfield. Wait, I don't know how much.
Well, just a very quick thing. Look at him at the Euros I was playing, and look at United. That's why international football and the Premier League is completely different.
Also, he's a 10 in Denmark, and he has no defensive responsibility. He doesn't have to do any of that stuff because he's got Hjumlund and Norgard as well behind him doing all that dog work, and Højbjerg, and then he can just sit in front and just dictate and pass, which he's never going to do at United because Bruno plays there, so it's just not going to happen for him.
Yeah, so I think that definitely in this team he does offer a lot more than what Eriksen would offer. I think that if he is fit, he will be given a lot more game time than he got last season. And once again, this is one of the players that Ten Hag actually pushed for a lot last season as a priority signing in the summer transfer window. So he must have some idea as to how he would actually want to use him in this team. And maybe when Ugarte comes, maybe when this midfield is actually fully fit with Bruno, Menu, Mount, and Ugarte. Maybe we see a different type of a midfield structure working.
Yeah, I agree. That in particular that you just mentioned, Ugarte, Mount, and Bruno Fernandes is arguably, even though they don't even play together yet, they're the hardest working midfield you will ever see in your life. Them together. Now there'll be concerns. I get people's concerns about Mount, and I think a lot of people have been jumping on him. Injuries aren't players' fault. If it happens within 2-3 years, it's one of those. It's you look at it as a fail of a transfer and you move him on. He's had 1 year with bad injuries. If he can get fit and stay fit, I fully believe, and I've always believed since we bought him, he is going to be a big player for us. And I think he's got talent. I think he's the right application. Everything you want off the ball, he provides. It's just if he can work as an eight. I know he played actually as a central midfielder at Derby, I think it was. He was actually collecting the ball off the defence at times and distributing it. So he can do that role. And again, people will question Erik ten Hag's kind of talent identification, but I think it's actually been pretty good, which me and Sam touched on the other day as well. So I don't know. I'm expecting a decent season from him. I just hope and I'm praying that he can stay fit because we need as much squad depth as we could possibly get going off last season anyway. Especially as well. Don't forget with the extended fixtures in the we're not in the Champions League. In the Europa League, sorry. There's going to be more and more games than ever. So we need players like that. I think that's the main point that I would probably take from it. Now, from one Mason to another Mason, Marseille on the next, I'll just call it carousel then, merry-go-round of teams who are now the favourites for Mason Greenwood. This is Marseille announcing that they are winning the race. United want at least £30 million for him, so they've dropped the price by 10 because initially it was 40, so they just thought, well, we're not going to get that, so we'll drop it down to 30. Sam, did you just want to get rid of him now? Is it just one of those cases just to get this deal over the line and get it done as soon as possible?
We've got a couple of clubs interested, like Lazio are interested. Marseille, like you said, I think Juve was sniffing. I know Atletico have been sniffing. Yeah. Obviously, the Lazio put the cards on the table. Was it a 20 million deal plus add-ons, I believe, is what they were saying.
And a sell-on. So if they sell him, we get like 40%, I think. Something like that.
So there's that. And then you've got Marseille, who's apparently offered more, but they've not revealed what or how much. So I don't know what that means. So yeah, it's just sell whoever's the highest, sell them to the highest bidder. Whoever's going to offer us the most money or the most beneficial add-ons or sell-ons, sell it to them and then get rid of him, and then we can be done with this thing. Because every week we talk about this, and every week all three of us are sick of talking about it. Like, let's just sell him and let's be done with it. Let's move on, please.
Do you know, I'm making my notes straight as to that, and I'm like, all right, I'll ask the guys about this today, and we'll speak about this, blah blah blah. Every time, either I think Greenwood situation comes up, Sancho's another one. It's just one of those that it's almost you can't be asked talking about it, can you? Because it's just we've been through the ringer with this story.
Yeah, and every other week, just one new club adds itself to the list. Sometimes it's Lazio, now it's Marseille. Last week it was Valencia who came into the picture. So it's just one new club that adds itself to the picture. And apart from it, all we've been hearing it is 20 or 25 or 20 or 25. So I think that is going to be most likely that is going to be the amount. Maybe we somehow get 30 for him, but I think that is the max. As you know, as things are looking right now, I don't see us getting like a 40 or 45 million offer for him, which realistically we should get, but I just don't see it happening.
And also, it may be a case of, because we've seen this before with transfers, when we sell a certain player, they then go and buy one because one's off the books and they've got 30 mil. So maybe that could have something to do with Xerxes deal, for example. It could kind of push that further. Just him and the Sancho deal, really. I have a feeling the Sancho one's just going to
much more tougher.
The end.
Me and Shreyas spoke about that while you're off, and we both came to the conclusion he's probably going to go on loan again.
Yeah. Which is just not ideal at all, is it?
I don't see who pays his wages. And I don't see him taking a wage cut. He's not taking a wage cut, is he? So I don't see who pays his wages.
Just on that, Sam, that bit there, he's not willing to take a wage cut with. You talk about different personalities in the game and people who are willing to do certain things. You heard about Matthias De Ligt in a minute, who's willing to take a paid cut, only wants to speak to United, he's brushed off PSG, blah, blah, blah. Sancho, I really want to move. I want to go Dortmund, I'll prove myself, blah, blah. Well, take a fucking wage cut then. Like, if you're that passionate about football and you believe in yourself that much, then go to Germany and prove it and go, peacock and do whatever it is you're doing.
It's not like he's like they're going from 300 grand a week to like £5 a week, is it? Like, he's not. Yeah. It's not that big of a hit. Like, you might go to 150 or 200 grand
Even
a
if
week.
he goes to Juve, he'll still be getting a considerable paycheck from them week in and week out.
Hey, try fucking £13 an hour, Sancho.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like, it's real life. Crazy, absolutely crazy. If he hits his ceiling, we would have got serious money for Greenwood in a couple of years with a decent sell-on clause. Dan Errington's almost just put a comment in as well. I don't know where that's gone.
He said 30 million is really cheap considering how much some youth players have been sold for Chelsea and Villa.
Yes, correct. Shweta Atrish is in the chat with a thumbs up. If you are new, Shweta, if I'm saying that right, please do hit that subscribe button and smash a like on the video as well. Thank you to everyone who already has. Greenwood already told the club to leave open agreement 30 million. Bang on, RE Sancho, Nick. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. It's been a quick 35 minutes, to be fair. It absolutely flew by. We have got Jay Motti on. We would have got a little bit longer. We've got Jay Motti on at 8:30. And we're going to take it back to the 90s. It's going to be a very fun and interesting show. So if you're interested in that, come and join us at that time. And make sure you get in the comments with Jay and let us know your thoughts and feelings. Something a little bit different. We'll talk to you about the topical news bits, but we're also going to do a bit of a 90s quiz towards the end. So, yeah, come and join us for that. Anything else, lads, before we go?
Follow the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that nice stuff. We appreciate all the new followers we've got on there recently, which is... really, really nice to see. Go follow us on there. And then, check out. There will be a show tomorrow. And then, I've just put the link in the chat to the Jay video. So get questions in for Jay. Don't have to be United related because, as you know, if you've seen me, Nick and Jay on the channel before, it will go in several different directions. And it will not stay on top.
Trying to fucking...
and have you ever seen trying to keep it on the rails, like...
Have you ever seen Peter Parker with Spider-Man where he's holding two school buses together with the webs? That's what me trying to fucking do, trying to keep the show together. So, should be fun. Looking forward to that. Shreyas, any plans at all, mate?
Yeah, just need to get through one more day and then it's the weekend. And, finally we get to see the next stage of the Euros as well. Spain versus Germany, Portugal versus France. It's going to be an exciting day coming up. So,
when's the parade?
Hopefully we get to see 2 good games.
When's the cricket parade? When's that happening?
Right now.
Right now? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you go enjoy yourself, mate. Don't let us do. Right, we'll leave it at that, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Smash that like button, subscribe to Real Reds Talk, and we'll see you in about an hour and a half time. See you in a bit.